So, Philip, it's just so wonderful to be here with you in New Zealand. It's actually a dream for me to be here. I mean, I read your book about a year ago, and I've been so deeply inspired by the depth of your vision and what you bring to the potential of a deeper understanding of movement for Pilates teachers, yoga teachers, physiotherapists, it really, movement teachers. So I think the potential is huge, and I'd love to, and also just the fact that you're coming over to the U.S. and teach will be so wonderful. So I'd love to hear you say a little something about what the basis of the concepts of what you're proposing are.
Thank you very much for coming. It's a pleasure having you both here in New Zealand. It's been great. My book's called Muscles and Meridians, and I address three main areas in the book. I've developed a new model of human movement. We have to accept that human movement is incredibly complex, and what we need to try and do is model it. And modeling is quite different to other procedures. And so what I've tried to do is go back into the embryology of human movement, so where muscles start, where bones start, how they migrate around the embryo, because there's patterns to that. So I've looked at those patterns, and I've gone back the other way into vertebrate biomechanics. You know, how did the early fish move? How do you get fish to become a tetrapod, a four-legged animal? How do you start to then get a four-legged animal to stand up on its back legs? These are huge changes, but our bodies have got all of that history embedded in the way we move.
And embryologically, I mean, as we're forming, as we're growing ourselves, we actually go through all these patterns.
Absolutely. So if we're going to try and understand human movement, we need to take a big perspective and then pick out what's really important and go from there. So out of that work, I've developed a model that I call contractile fields. And contractile fields are the key building blocks that I've taken are the way we bend side to side like a fish. So I'm trying to delineate which muscles would do that. You see, when you go like this, you're crossing from left to right. So where would those cross points be on the human body? And anatomically, how would you recognize those points? When we became a four-legged animal, tetrapod, we started to explore this type of movement, flexion and extension. And it's not many fish do this. This was something that was developed on a terrestrial environment. That's why dolphins, when they went back to the sea, 60 million years ago, they were a four-legged animal like a pig, and they went back to the sea and they took this movement pattern with them. So what muscles flex you and extend you? And you've got to remember that it's a continuous ring all the way around you, from front to back. So how do you understand this?
Yes.
Where's the very top of the ring? Where's the very bottom of the ring? Where does the left side cross to the right side? Where does the front cross to the back? I then moved on to how the bending to the side interacts with the forward and backward bending. And that starts to produce twisting movements. A twist, a torque, is biomechanically, it's a mix of bending to the side with flexion or extension. A torque is a compound movement. And so I started thinking about that and trying to see how muscle crosses the midline and wraps around your body. So that led to theoretical questions about to create a very complex twist. Say you can imagine a very flexible woman doing the most complicated yoga twist you can imagine. How many times would you have to wrap muscle around the body to create that movement?
Yes.
Does it need to go around twice? Does it need to go around 20 times? You know, these are theoretical questions. So, and where are the key places where the cross would take place? Where as you move from front to back and left to right. Because that's the way muscle would work, to produce a twist like throwing a stone or kicking a ball. As I went into this, I then realized that you needed another group of muscles, and I call this the radial field, which in the exercise community is a little equivalent to core strength, because it's absolutely imperative that your spine keeps its height. If you buckle your spine, even for a second, it really hurts, and it hurts for months. So your spine does not like being kinked or buckled. And so it's got a squeezing mechanism. And when you squeeze a body like this, it tends to elongate. If I get this little piece of plastic here, you can see it. If your body is something like this, if I squeeze it, I get more length. And so this is what I call the radial field. It's the squeezing field. I call it a radial field because it both squeezes you, but the flip side of that is just as important. You've got to be able to breathe.
So that's what's very, very distinct and very important for people who are so sort of caught in
the squeezing.
Core squeezing, that it's not isolated. You can't isolate that movement.
Yes, absolutely. That's why I call it the radial field, because it works both ways.
That's right.
It's like night and day, or movement and rest. You can't have one without the other. And yes, I would agree that the core strength movement has been so strong for the last 5 or 10 years that everyone goes, and that's not compatible with breathing, with relaxing, with normal movement.
Right.
I then had to think about arms and legs, because until then I'd been dealing with the torso, and obviously arms and legs are very important. So that took me into the embryology and the evolutionary biology of arms and legs, and how to understand their position in regards to movement. And again, I've just used the embryology to come up with a way of understanding that muscles from the arms and the legs move in obliquely to the torso. The arm and leg muscles sit like an overcoat on top of the torso. And all the main muscles come in at the diagonal. So I suggest that your arms and legs empower particularly your ability to twist. So kicking, throwing, all those rotary movements the twisting ability of your torso is amplified by the arms and the legs. Mm-hmm. If your arms and legs came out straight from here, they would amplify your ability to go up and down. Mm-hmm. Or if they came out right from the very side of you, and the shoulders look as though they do, but they actually don't. But if they did, then it would amplify this movement. But the shoulders, the arms and the legs come in at very particular parts of the embryo, and they emphasize your ability to twist. And that's the way I understand it. And then that then took me into deeper aspects of movement, something called the coelom, which is your outside body is one thing, and that's what we all dwell on. But movement is much more than just your outside muscles and bones. Inside, you've got your cardiovascular system, and that can act as a brace around that all your movement patterns take place around, and your viscera. And so I had to try and understand how they might fit into this model.
Yes.
And that's
I just thank you so much for the tremendous contribution that you're making. I feel it's just enormous. And I know that I have learned so much. It's helped me to refine the vision that I've had over so many years of exploring what is core, what is our relationship to gravity, what is human movement. And I feel that the work that you're doing, especially coming as an osteopath and acupuncturist with such a broad view of the potential of movement and your willingness to really look outside and explore new ideas and new ways of looking. I just really thank you so much.
I think that's a very important point. What I've tried to do here is, I call it generic. This isn't directed at any one professional group.
Yes.
This is applicable to anyone that deals with whole living people.
Yes.
You know, once you're a surgeon, that's a different story. Then you need the paradigm that suits that profession. But if you're dealing with whole living people, we need to have an anatomy and a sense of movement based on whole living people. And so this work is applicable to physiotherapists, chiropractors, Pilates trainers, personal trainers, yoga teachers.
Absolutely.
Anyone whose mandate is movement and movement function and movement dysfunction.
Yes. Yeah.
I then started to develop a new way of assessing bodies, and I call that idea archetypal postures. Archetype is the original or the best example of something, one of the early primal examples of something. And I started to realize that a new way of looking at bodies, you needed a new way of assessing them. And I came up with these postures that you're sitting in now, Wendy. I'm sitting in one of them as well. I would suggest that every child on the planet, in every culture, grows up, and these postures are very much part of your development. And so in a way, contractile fields focus on how our bodies move. The flip side of movement is rest. It's like ease and dis-ease, you know, or night and day. You've got to look at both sides of that continuum. And I would suggest that these postures are the way your body has biomechanically retuned itself on a day-by-day, sort of hour-by-hour situation.
Yes.
And our modern lifestyles, where we sit in chairs all the time and we wear shoes all the time, has removed very important self-corrective mechanisms from our physiques. And as those self-corrective mechanisms get reduced, then subtly we get out of tune. When we get out of tune, our bodies start to develop aches and pains. Those aches and pains get bigger. We have the first little operation. That works for a little bit, then we have another little operation, and before you know it, you've got a full-bore knee problem.
Yes.
And then that leads on to the next thing, and then the next thing. And biomechanically, we start to become distressed.
Yes.
So archetypal postures are a fantastic way, a very effective way of helping understand and treat musculoskeletal distress. That's a conclusion.
Thank you so much. Can't wait to have you in the U.S. And I really, really am so excited to have Phillip come and visit us, and we just need to take advantage of that. So
I look forward to coming very much.
absolutely beautiful.